Hello, everybody. We are live. Yay! Okay, tonight you guys are in for a treat because we have Marina. I'm a bad bookseller. I should have asked. Is it Lostetter? How do I correctly pronounce your last name?
Lostetter. You got the first one.
Yes.
Lostetter. Yes. Marina
Okay.
Lostetter.
Awesome. And Marina is going to be in conversation with Jenn Lyons, who I know many of you are familiar with. But there's going to be lots of gushing because we are celebrating Marina's book, The Helm of Midnight. And as many of you know, normally I'll kind of give you my own little spiel of a book in the intro and then pass it off. But in the description, there's actually a quote I'm just going to read you that's really quick because it just shows you how this book has all of the things. So it's Hannibal meets Mistborn in Marina's The Helm of Midnight, the dark and stunning first novel in a new trilogy that combines the intricate world building and rigorous magic system of the best of epic fantasy and a dark and chilling thriller. Now, if that doesn't make you want to read the book, then I don't know, because it's got fantasy, it's got the world building, it has this magical mask and all of the things. I'm going to stop gushing. I did warn you guys, though, there would be lots of gushing because this book is amazing. But I'll do the Vanna White section and then pass it off to Jen so that we can get into things. But to the right-hand side, as you guys know, we have our general chat section. That is just whereas you can indeed ask questions. And then not ask questions, where you can discuss the book and book love. And then down below where it says ask questions is where you can ask all of your questions. I highly encourage you to do so because the authors are at your mercy. And it's the most fun part about events. You guys get to interact with the authors. It is virtual, but you still get to interact. And then also the best way to support this amazing new book is to indeed purchase said amazing book. And if you would like to, if you look down below, there will be a buy signed book button. And not only can you get the book, you can get it signed and personalized. Not a book plate, but the actual book signed and personalized. And that is for both of our authors' books. Yes, look at the beautiful book. But on that note, I'm going to pass it off to Jen. I will see you guys at the end of the event. Have an amazing discussion.
Thank you.
And it has that sort of matte, thing going on there. And
then it's got the nice spot gloss. My camera is apparently backwards, so I apologize for that. You'll have a mirror image here. Hold it up. Woo.
Yeah. No. I was telling Marina before this started that I got a copy of the book on Friday, and I was like, I'm not going to have enough time to actually read this, and I feel really terrible about it. And then I made the mistake of opening it up to the first page, where there's this really interesting little bit of, just world building that is honestly one of the most succinct, fabulous, whet your appetite for it lays down all the rules. It's great. It's just great. So it's this little excerpt, this little religious excerpt that talks about the gods and refers to each of the gods by a different gender and a different gender pronoun. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I have to keep reading. And then the next thing I knew, it was like morning and I'd read the whole book. And so I love this book. I love this book so much.
Thank you.
I totally agree. I totally agree with the description of it. I do have to say it kind of reminded me a little bit of Robert Jackson Bennett's City of Swords, his City of Miracles books.
I have not read that, but I should.
Because anytime it's that sort of, you have something that's culturally sort of similar to A Place on Earth, but not A Place on Earth. And then you have a commodification of some sort of really interesting magic system that's being just explored to its fullest, it's my cup of tea. I love that so much. So, and you did a great job with it. It just, it's, yeah, see, I'm going to gush.
Okay, I will just sit here and take compliments of anything. If that's what you want to do, I'm cool.
Yeah, so I would, you guys need to buy your book. because it's good. It's very, very good. And at least obviously everyone's own personal preferences, mileage may vary, but for me, it was a fast read. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. I'm getting City of Swords was one of the later ones. But that same kind of intensity to it as well. Really, really, really lovely. And I love the main character. Okay. Anyway. So, this is the question I hate the most, probably in since I've started being a public writer, but the idea of emotion being a thing that can be pulled into economy and be industrialized, and how did you come up with that idea?
Well, in general, I wanted to have really engineered magic. So I think somebody at some point compared it, it's kind of like alchemy, in which there are a lot of rules. I don't lay them down like a lot of rules, but enough to give it some structure. So I really wanted it to be an integrated part of all parts of society, but also it's a very expensive part of society, right? So mostly people who have money, which is also part of the magic, because time is literally money. In this universe, more rich people have it than poor people, but I wanted it to be a very daily life. Everybody usually sees magic somewhere. It might be far off in the distance and you can't reach it, but everybody is more or less familiar with the concept of engineered magic.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I I don't think this is too much of a spoiler. I'm just going to talk about the death masks a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. Oh no.
So part of this idea is that when a person dies, if you've made the right preparations, and again, there's some privilege to this, both who can benefit and who can contribute, you can have a death mask made that will preserve a skill set of yours, whether it's knowledge or whether it's a specific, how good you are with weapons, or how good you are at calligraphy, or whatever the particular thing is. Mm-hmm. And that was just. You can tell me a little bit more about.
Give me more. Okay, so the whole story of the story starts way back in January 2011, when I had just come home from my honeymoon, and I'm still married. So I've been married for 10 years now. That's how old this story is. Oh. Thank you. So I was trying to write a short story, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna use elements in my own surroundings, and I'm gonna shove them in the short story. We'll see what I come up with. So we were on our honeymoon in Costa Rica, and there are a Baruca craftsmen there that make beautiful, beautiful masks. And we have two. And and they have so much personality and color, and they're beautiful works of art. And I was like, okay, well, what if they have personality, literally? What if there were personalities in this mask? And then I had to come up with a reason why would you enchant a death mask? What would be the purpose? So again, because I wanted to have really engineered utilization type techniques for magic.
Right.
Death masks were born.
That's wonderful. And I mean, I can never get enough of the sort of, because that lends into the whole idea of these sort of artifacts that can be, the too dangerous to be allowed out into the public kind of artifacts that can then go astray, and shenanigans can happen. But even better, because of course you have this sort of, you could be possessed by Hannibal vibe going to it.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Great. No, I mean, so this is a very geographically claustrophobic.
There's a map.
It's show the map.
Pull up the map. It'll be again backwards because my camera's on mirror mode, but everything takes place in a single valley.
Yeah, and it's actively there be monsters on outside of the valley. You cannot. There's no leaving the valley. The valley is
No.
the only safe place, and it feels very kind of post-apocalyptic in some ways, right? You know, like you're wondering what happened. Surely this can't be, you know, all that there has ever been of humanity is in this one valley. There has to be more. Which is why I was very, very glad to have, you know, like this is the first book of a trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have questions. I have questions.
It's very confined. It is explained in their religion as basically, so there's 5 gods and the Thallo, which is really the creator god. But the creator god didn't make humans. It just made the world and all the monsters. And then it was like, I'm bored. I should make me some friends. And then it made the gods. And then the gods like did their own thing. And it was like, oh no, what do I do now? I've created a monster. And they went off and they made their little fragile, weak humans that kept being eaten by all the monsters. And they were like, hey, dude, can you make the monsters stop? And they were like, you made the wimpy little creatures. Why don't you do something about your creatures? So that's when in their origin myth, the gods led them into this valley and then sacrificed themselves basically to create a borderland that traps all of humanity in this safe, beautiful place and traps all of the monsters and theoretically the Thallo itself outside of the valley.
Right. And you did a fabulous job of conveying this sense of unreliable narration on a religious level, right? That
good. That's important.
This cannot be the true story. This is just what people have been taught, which again, I love. Basically, this hit all of my buttons, right? You know, for the thing, like it's like a little check mark of things I love in books. All that wrapped up in this sort of this mystery and suspense kind of thing, with a beautifully determined, flawed, capable protagonist. I just love it. So, okay. So, now as I recall, your previous books were sci-fi.
Yep.
So, which, cool, as somebody who I also like, do not really do the transit. You know, I don't do like just fantasy or just, so respect. Do you want to talk about your previous books too? I mean,
we can if you want to. Yeah. I wrote a trilogy called the Newman Trilogy. It's far future space opera, or it starts very near future and goes very far future. The whole trilogy actually covers about 100,000 years. So it's very, very expansive. It features fleets of ships that basically, in the near future, humanity has like gotten all its crap together, and we're like, all right, we have taken care of all of our homeworld nonsense. Now we have all of the resources and the cooperative societies that are going to send out all these scouting parties, basically, to these weird anomalies in the galaxy. So there are 12 of those. And the whole Newman Trilogy really only focuses on 2 of them. So the first one goes off to investigate a strobing star that they think might have a giant alien artifact around it. And the second book focuses more, it still deals with that, but it introduces another convoy that, I guess I won't spoil it, but something happened in the first book to them. And then the third book shows how they all converged in the future and what actually was going on with this giant strobing star. And it has one through line character, which is ICC, who is basically my AI personality in one of the convoy ships. And then it's told through a series of short stories that are all interconnected through different point of views, because obviously people die. So in order to expand the story over 100,000 years, we had to do different iterations of people. And in this case, I did that through clones. So you do get to follow different clone lines. So you're sort of familiar, even though it's a different person, with the characters as you go. So that was the Newman Trilogy.
I mean, that sounds really cool. So I see there's questions.
Mm-hmm.
I figure might as well. I mean, we'll go back and forth, but I see no reason to wait until the end necessarily to ask some of these. So what skill set of yours would you want to put into your own death mask? And what skill set would you want to get from a death mask?
I feel like writing is the only skill set I have that anybody would care to have. So I guess the boring answer, because I'm a writer, I'm going to say writing. Either that or my magical ability to tend to aloe plants. I have 100 of them, and that's not hyperbole. I have 100 aloe plants.
You have 100 aloe plants?
I have 100 aloe plants.
Okay.
I have a lot of plants, but all of my life I thought I was very bad at growing things and that I could never have a green thumb, and I almost killed the first aloe plant that my mom gave me. But today it's flowering, and it's, now they're going to seed, and I have a lot of them anyway. I suppose if somebody really needed to know how to grow aloes, I could provide that information. What would I want?
Yes, what would you want?
There are so many skills I don't have that would be lovely. I am a terrible singer, and I feel like that would be an enjoyable skill set to have.
Oh, I am so with you on that one. Yeah. I'm so with you on that one. Like singing in me, not a thing. And this one's going to be really weird, but for the life of me, and I have people who can bear witness to this one, I can't make Jell-O. I can make all kinds of things without like flinching in the kitchen, all sorts of really complicated things. Don't even throw me at all. Jell-O, can't make Jell-O. My husband's watched me through the steps of like, I don't understand why that's not setting. Like,
why is this hard? There's always that one thing, right? That you're like,
yep.
No matter how much you try, you cannot master it. And it seems so simple. Everybody else does it, right? That one thing we're not good at.
No Jell-O for me. So I said I was going to talk about this earlier. Yes, I have a drink. So I made this in honor of tonight. This is it's actually kind of unoriginally named, but I'm going to go with it anyway. I'm going to call this a Midnight Kraken.
Uh-huh.
Because it's made with, wait for it, Kraken rum and Hendrick's Lunar Gin.
Ooh. That sounds fancy.
And blueberry peppercorn shrub.
It looks yummy.
So it's good. It's good. So I think if you could do that with the mask thing, there would definitely be a lot of fighting over who got to use what mask.
And that's why they're expensive.
Right. Yeah, of course. Can you imagine, like, you could check out Ursula K. Le Guin writing ability. I'd be like, we're in line, please. So so let's see. I mean, are you, the question I always get asked, I'm going to pass this along. I'm sure you get this one a lot too. Outliner, make it up as you go.
I am a plotter, but in a very, very loose sense of the word. So I have, like, before I really do much of anything on a story, I kind of sit down on a document and just do like a whole train of thought, like, and this happened, and this happened, and that happened. And it'll be very contradictory, and it'll make no sense to anybody but me, because I know what the good parts are, and I know what the, throwaway parts are. So I do that. And then as I go through, occasionally I'll make myself like a bullet point list. Like I'll do a chapter heading, and then I'll make like a bullet point list of what should happen in the chapter, like as I'm going.
Right.
But that's probably really as close to literally outlining as I do. And then a lot of it just develops as I write through that loose structure.
Yeah. I have this sneaking suspicion that, for a lot of us, not everybody, but for a lot of us, it really is that sort of in-between state where, you know, I know personally that if I try to get too granular with the outlining, I screw it up. On the other hand, if I don't outline, I will also screw it up. So
I need a thing to like aim for is my big thing.
Yeah. Milestones, right? You know, like, okay, I know I have to do this in this chapter.
Right.
Here's the stuff I know I have to get across or I have to communicate. Yeah. Okay. So I'm very similar. So totally harmonize with that that idea. All right. So somebody asked, what are you currently reading?
Oh, what am I currently reading? I just opened, because I actually got it from Mysterious Galaxy, Enola Holmes. So I haven't actually started it yet.
Okay.
But when the movie came out and there was a whole craze, I tried to find the book and I couldn't find it anywhere.
Well, I mean, I just finished this book called
The
Helm of Midnight. And prior to that, I had just finished reading a absolutely fabulous book that's coming out in the fall, whose name I'm going to completely I'll get back to that. Anyway, kitty alert. Sorry, all of the questions have to get swept aside. Tell me about your kitty.
Pause for the cat. This
Pause
one is
for the
Boomer.
cat.
The other one is Starbuck. They're both black, so one has a collar and one doesn't, because it's how one accesses her food bowl, and the other one has a totally different system. So that might be the only way you can tell them apart if they come up here. One has a collar and one doesn't.
Right.
And they are named for the Battlestar Galactica fighter pilots.
Just making sure I get the name right of this, because I'm, like I said, I'm actually like the worst when it comes to names. So, and I think there's a chance that she's actually watching this. So, I'm about to feel really, really terrible. But so Light from Uncommon Stars, by I'm hoping this is correct, Raika Aoki. And I when buy that, just buy that. It's amazing. I was trying to describe it to somebody. I was like, it's Faust meets Galaxy Quest.
No.
So, and you don't.
You're like, interesting, and then you go, interesting.
And you don't think that can work, and it works, and it works beautifully. And
Nice.
She just does the most amazing job of capturing the desire to create art, the need to create that drives us. And it's you read that and you're like, oh, I'm feeling really seen right now. This is kind of, in this particular case, it's all about violins, but nonetheless, I recommend that one highly. I'm on to the next one, I suppose, after that. Have you written the second book, or you?
I'm in the middle of writing the second book.
Okay.
I had to, in between there, I wrote another space book that's coming out in September. So I have many things happening.
What's that one called?
That one's called Activation Degradation.
Okay.
And that one is a Jovian space, near future, robot wakes up and basically it works to maintain a helium-3 mine in Jupiter's atmosphere. And as soon as it's activated, its handler's like, the mine's being attacked by aliens. Hurry up and get in your ship and go blast them out of the sky, sort of thing. So it's trying to integrate everything while it's running around trying to figure out who's attacking and why. And some things are not as they seem, which is kind of a theme with me, in case you hadn't noticed.
I have no idea what you mean with unreliable anything. That's not it's totally my jam. I love unreliability in storytelling.
So Unifor goes off to deal with these aliens and then finds out some things are going down that its handler was not telling it about.
That's great. I will have to pick it up because, like I said, I love sci-fi. So, yeah, see, we're giving you guys good
More
stuff
books,
here.
Yes.
I'm watching them put the links in. So, all right. What scene or section of this book brought you the most joy to write? That is always a difficult question for me.
Oh, that is a hard one.
I mean, there's so many different things that hopefully you enjoyed writing when you were writing.
Right, yeah. I did enjoy some of Krona and Tibbett's banter, just because I don't think I've written a lot of banter before. So that was fun just from he's kind of the like roguish cad, and of course she's the like straight-laced, law enforcement person.
Right.
So he's always kind of like poking the bear while at the same time they're flirting. So that was fun. That was very different.
Yeah, no, that was good.
And it's also kind of some lighter moments because it is, obviously serial killer book.
Right.
Talking about some darker things. So it's fun also to be able to do those little lighter instances.
That brings up a good point because I certainly have strong opinions on this one. But what are your opinions on humor in what we do? Because what we do is often very grim and dark. Yes.
I think it's important. I think just generally speaking, you want a book, like a short story can be very emotionally one note. And sometimes that's what's exactly what you want from a short story, right? Is it's about building a specific feeling and a specific, state of being. Whereas I feel like you want novels to be more dynamic, emotionally speaking. So you need, or at least I feel from my craft perspective, that it's necessary to have points where the readers can breathe and recuperate. And it also depends on what kind of book you're writing. So Activation Degradation is a very go book. There's still moments of breathing, but it's much more like thrillery, high octane, going all the time type book. Whereas this one, even though there's some people have described it with thriller aspects, it's kind of more of a slow burn, dark, it's not slow, but it's not that high octane all the time. It's very much like you're living in the moment and experiencing everything that's happening around you and really observing the world. Whereas in something that's, like I said, Activation Degradation is more like go.
Right.
So I think if you're trying to have a dynamic book, you want it to have highs and lows of different emotions going on, whether that's humor or the darkness or, just time to breathe or time to cry or, anything like that.
Well, I guess it's baked in, right? Your book, because of what it is, deals a great deal with emotional states.
Yes.
It's literally part of the magic system,
Right.
So I guess it's not really a surprise that you dive deep into those emotional states.
Yeah, I think when I write, I try to, so plot is usually the first thing that comes to me. And then I try to layer theme directly related to plot things. And that's just kind of intuitively how I build a story. So because we're already dealing with deep emotional parts of the magic in the plot, that's just going to naturally thread through thematically into the characters and what they're personally going through alongside it, right?
Do you may not remember this, but do you remember what inspired the pronoun choices? Because I thought that was just fascinating. I have not seen anybody tie pronoun choices to religion in quite that way ever. Just ever. So
I think generally speaking, I was just trying to build something that felt, so for one, I wanted to have a queer normative world. Mm-hmm. So that, there's this isn't a place that's got homophobia or anything like that. It's very normalized that people of a spectrum of genders and a spectrum of sexualities all exist just within the world. So I thought one way to really make it clear up front that was normative was to put it in the religion. Like I said, it's before page one, you get hey, this is how this is going on. And then the different people in the world take pronouns from the gods for different reasons. That's all very personal to them. So I think that was just part of it, was just trying to create something that was very, for me, because I would like to see more queer normative worlds. I just wanted to build one.
Right. Yeah. No, like I said, and usually if I see it, I will see, I mean, your experience obviously may be different. Usually when I see it, I will see a choice of one. Like, we're going to just use, this one kind of pronoun, or, we're going to do, he, she, and there, or, it'll a limited number, or just one. And you just went, no, we're going to throw them all in. And yeah, that was really, like I said, that was the first thing I saw. I was like, okay, I got to keep going. I got to see what the rest of it going. And of course, the book starts on a massive theft. So those are awesome.
Heist, chapter 1.
Heist. Yeah, chapter 1, heist. So, that was great. All right. So, let's see. Somebody asked, do you only have the skills while wearing the mask? And I think
yes.
Yeah.
You do. You don't permanently get them. You get them for as long as you are donning the mask.
Which is why you can rent them out.
Yes.
Which I love. I just loved I'm gonna rent this out for a weekend, and all right. What kind of research did you have to do for this novel, and what was your favorite piece of research that you did not get to include?
Oh goodness, research, that's hard.
I
what research did I do? It's because it started as a short story that happened over 10 years. I feel like I did a lot and did nothing at all, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes
there was a lot of
sense.
Small instances of doing a lot, whereas trying to remember one specific thing was difficult. I'm trying to think of one thing that I thought was really neat, because it's not like I didn't find anything that was cool doing this. I definitely did. Well, okay, I'll just talk about the map a little. So I was trying to figure out, I already had a valley in my mind, but not an actual shape of the valley. And I wanted it to be a very natural, real looking valley. So my map is actually of a real place. It is slightly altered, but I'm not going to tell you where that is. So it's a secondary world. This place should not be considered as part of the world, but it is based on a valley in our, I'll say, solar system as a hint.
Oh.
So that was fun when I was trying to figure out what kind of, valley to
okay.
put my people in.
All right. So, the woman whose book I just mentioned just asked, your last series spanned 100,000 years, and this book takes place in a single valley, which is a huge change of scale. Yes. Is there any trick to shifting from the vast to the local?
Oh, yes. It almost feels like I inverted everything, because for Newman, they go all sorts of places in the universe or in the galaxy, I suppose. And then I tell it over a long period of time. And I chose to show that with very short, tight stories, right, within the larger story. And then with this one, it was shifting the other way to write a more traditionally structured novel, which was different for me. This was my first traditionally structured novel. The other ones are all mosaics. So in a way, because it shrank it, I had to expand it. Does that make any sense? So because the other one was so expansive, I had to condense the individual stories. And because this one was more condensed, I had to expand the individual story.
Yeah. So the previous ones were more like a collection, an anthology connected by the theme of
there's a whole arc for all of the books, but each one all the chapters are their own.
Whereas this one you had to do a bit more of a deep dive onto. Yeah, I get it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's an interesting difference to approach. And also, I mean, you kept the POVs reasonably constrained. I mean, there's just a couple, as I recall.
There's 3. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
4-ish.
Yeah.
Kind of cheating. One's a cheating point of view, but
Yep. But you know, it all makes sense. It all works with what you did and why. Again, I love the book. Read the book. So, Mysterious Galaxies asks, can you tell us about the striking cover? Since
Sure.
It really catches the eye. I want to know who the artist is.
This is Sam Weber, unless my brain just did a weird thing and substituted somebody else. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Remember? Let me see. I'm sure it says here. Yes, Sam Weber, who did those really beautiful new Dune covers. I don't know if you've seen.
I have not. I will have to go look for those.
They are really gorgeous from a couple of years ago. We actually went through a couple of iterations with this. So on the front, as I put it down, this is a regulator uniform, but it is a special version of the regulator uniform. They only wear white on very certain occasions. And basically, we wanted to go for something that was very atmospheric. So we started out with the white figure concept on like a shade, a shadowed black background. And then we went through a few sets of trying to like change the size of the armor and the focus of the armor. And we had a few that were much more just like very traditional fantasy feeling. And we kind of wanted to, because this has serial killer elements and things like that you don't see a lot of, we wanted to make sure it was clear that it wasn't just like strictly epic fantasy. So we wanted to try to bring in other elements we could. And I think we achieved that really well with the...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I don't think you see this and you think, it's a normal, this is a normal fantasy novel.
I think that's been our issue with our struggle with the marketing, because it has thriller aspects, but it is also epic fantasy. We want to make sure that we're not losing the epic fantasy readers, who are definitely the core readership, but also signaling that it's outside your usual.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. And I love it. That's a great cover, and it really catches your eye. And I love the spot varnish on it. You can tell I was a graphic artist for a very long time. So I get completely like sidetracked by, it's embossed.
Pretty, yeah. It has deckled edges. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah. It does have deckled edges. It's really great.
It's a pretty book.
It is a very, very pretty book. I like it a lot. And significantly red end papers. That's actually a thing, which was an interesting choice. So let's talk about really briefly. You hitch a lot of meaning onto color in this book, which I respect. Mm-hmm. So what was there anything in particular that influenced what colors you picked for their cultural significance?
I think I wanted to stay away as much as I could from a lot of specifically like American, related color choices. And I would say that they're not related to other cultures in the world, because other cultures use color for all sorts of things. So, but I definitely wanted to bring in a lot of bright colors, and partially it's because I am not a very visual person when I imagine the story. I'm actually really action oriented. So I see how people move around each other. I see like the expressions they make, but not their literal faces.
Okay.
So it was a conscious choice on my part to imbue the world with more color than I usually even see when I do these things. So I did want things that were really starkly emotional colors in the moment. So red is a very emotional color, and depending on your culture, it can be a really exciting, lovely, celebratory color, or it can be a really anger-inducing color. And in this world, I chose red for grief.
Yeah, I was gonna say but you picked something unusual too.
Something unusual for it. So I was
Yeah.
trying to tie it, yes, to use a color in a way that maybe a lot of readers had not seen a color utilized before, and to tie that to a new set of emotions within the specific world.
It definitely caught me off guard. Like when it comes up very, very early, and I remember reading that and going, "Wait, what? How?" And then because right away you realize what red is really, what that is carrying in terms of emotional weight. You're like, oh, well, this is very different.
Right.
And didn't expect that at all. But I very much liked it.
Good.
Yeah, I liked all the different choices. Like, again, in part because they were very vibrant and very different and very, very memorable. So, let's see. I'm gonna go fishing for a couple more questions here. If you could take an outside character and put them in your book, who would it be? Alternately, if you don't want to answer that one, pick one of your characters and put them in another universe.
Oh, let's see. What if we just swap some of them? So I don't know why I thought of this. I thought of this in another interview question. It was a written one. But I thought Melanie would be really interesting to see her in Alice in Wonderland, just because I feel like she is a strangely innovative character. Like she's kind of like Alice in that she's very curious and seems soft and innocent. But, as you go through her story, like she is like hardcore, and she's probably more hardcore than Corona in the long run, right? She's like, I'm doing this because I want to achieve this. And that's what's happening.
Which I love.
Nobody's going to come in here and
I adore that you did not attach strength of character to physical ability. I love that because I see that a lot, where people are like, okay, I want to prove that this femme presenting character is strong, and therefore I'm going to make them a badass with a sword. I've
got one of those, but she's
sure. Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with it.
Very much like Corona is a badass in the outside and definitely a softie in the middle, and Melanie is like the one you would underestimate as like the mousy girl in the corner, but she's the one that will come for your throat if you do anything.
Yeah. No. She's I liked that juxtaposition. I liked the fact that yes, marshmallow on the inside, but the really gruff cop basically, and then you had Melanie who was way, way tougher than anyone was going to give her credit for, and people kept underestimating her because of it. So I mean, and that is that something you want to touch on at all? Like the I don't want to say you have in this book. Certainly, they're not all, female characters by any stretch, but the female characters that are in this book are all really interesting and really different and very much their own people with unique personalities. Do you want to talk about that in reference to how this is commonly treated in fantasy as a whole?
I mean, I guess we can. I do think I was half consciously, half subconsciously kind of like pushing back against your like more traditional representations of women in fantasy. Obviously, modern times we have gotten way better. There's tons of fantasy now where we do women great and all sorts of kinds of people, right? And then, so I do think I was pushing against that because, as you grow up, you get like one or two female characters, and then you are lucky if they are the princess and the evil queen, right? Like that's your kind of like back in the day. That's what you can expect. But we're far past that these days. But I still think a lot of us, because we grew up with that, are still playing with that concept and pushing back against it. Yeah. And even my male character, because there's one female character, I don't want to be too spoilery, but we only really see her through his eyes, and he does have a bit, even though it's very subtle, and I tried to make it subtle, a like Madonna Horde dichotomy about the women in his life.
Yeah.
I think I was still able to imbue her with a lot of depth, even though she's the whore, right? The women in his life are the Madonnas, right?
You've seen a very, very, very slanted view of that character. Yeah.
So and that was another challenge with one character, is to try to like put in subtle hints of misogyny that he has that he doesn't even realize he has.
Right.
But they're so subtle that I feel like a lot of people might not even realize that it was like done on purpose, because we have so many misogynistic characters in the world. So my attempt at nuance there might go unnoticed, but I was trying something there.
I think that's completely valid, and fortunately, it's fine if people don't catch it. There's enough that is fabulous and amazing about the book. They don't have to catch all the specific little. So, okay. What's the one moral / idea that you built this book around? Just one?
Oh, just one. Well, it's definitely...
Was there just one?
There was not just one. There was probably too many. But I think I probably took some out along the way because I was dealing with so much. Definitely a big part of it is being a cog in a morally and ethically questionable machine.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the cogs are more toothy than others, and some of the cogs realize they are cogs, and some of the cogs do not realize they are cogs, and some of the cogs refuse to be cogs. And who is which might change at any given moment. But I also think the reader might be surprised at who is the person who actually ends up being the most rebellious person in the story. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I can't wait to see what you do in book 2. I mean, just putting that out there bluntly. Cannot wait, because you definitely pose some interesting questions that I'm not going to talk about because spoilers, that do not get resolved. So, which is just
the main storyline gets the serial killer aspect storyline. Plot gets resolved. Yeah. And then I give you some also things are happening in the world.
There's some deeper societal issues, and there's some deeper issues just overall, and some plot threads that definitely continue to trail down to hopefully be picked up in later books. Yeah. So, all right. I think I already know the answer to this question, but you might surprise me. Was there a particular mythology that influenced the religion and mythology of the book?
Not consciously. Subconsciously, I'm sure, for sure.
I've had this conversation before. I'm of the opinion that as writers, we can't help it. It's always going to sneak in.
When people ask, like, what are your influences or what didn't influence us? And you're like, I am an amalgamation of things that I take in. Right. Yeah. But personally, I have always been drawn to pantheons, like broader pantheons. So Egyptology and, Norwegians, all of those, different, or the Greek gods, anything that has a large pantheon. Right. I've always been attracted to. So I think it was just like kind of inevitable that I would try to build a pantheon. Right.
I kind of think as a writer, there's more for us to work with
to do
pantheon. Yeah. You can do cool little intrigues and conflicts and stuff that maybe, I mean, by definition a monotheistic depiction isn't going to be as much about the deities as it is going to be about the relationship of people with that deity, because we usually write about conflict in some manner. So hard to have that conflict if, although you took a very Gnostic turn on your treatment of the gods that I thought was really interesting. I don't see often, Yes.
Yeah, I was trying to have characters, that have different relationships with religion, like in reality. So because it is a valley and it is so small, I don't have like whole separate religions for the different countries. They all more or less have the same deities, but they as cultures interact with that set of deities differently. and then individual families interact with them differently, and then individual people interact with them differently. So you have some very atheist people, and then you have all the way full priests, you know. So I was trying to run the whole gambit of how people actually do relate to religion and how it informs their lives.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, because that's what you would expect to see. So somebody asked, and I'm gonna modify the question a little bit because I know you haven't written the final book yet. They asked, how close is the final book to your initial vision of what it would be, and how or why did it change? My experience, which I'm kind of passing on, is when you write a first book and you get it into an editor, there's usually changes that occur, or there can be changes that occur that may change the path of what you had originally intended with the series. So did that happen?
So with the first book, if we're just looking at the first book, and then I can also address the series. So the first book is definitely very different, just because it has been through so many iterations, because it started out as a short story, which was just part of Melanie's story, actually. So her first few chapters
interesting.
Were a short story. No, it wasn't Krona. I didn't start with her. I started with Melanie. And then I built on the serial killer aspect, which is when I brought Krona in. And then I don't think it was until I gave it to my agent that we introduced the third point of view, which is Carbon. So that went through different iterations. And then also, definitely what Will, my editor, did is he helped me weave Melanie's storyline in better, because the short story was just a prologue before. So I edited that up to flow better with Krona's chapters as they build up towards meeting each other.
That all sounds like that's approach changes, right? Like that.
Yeah, mostly approach changes. I think my plot. So I think the intricacies of my plot shifted around a lot, but the actual beginning, middle, and end that I generally envisioned, more or less, I hit the same notes. I think it'll end up changing somewhat dramatically in my overarching series. Not my main points again, because there were individual things for each book that I wanted to focus on. So I think that story will stay the same, but how I end up there, I am positive will be very different.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Are you so am I correct in assuming that you are one of the writers that has a very strong idea of how a book is going to end?
Yes, that's often what I know first is the ending, and then I backtrack to how did we get here. Right. So, yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. When I first started, I was not one of those people.
No,
I was not at all one of those people, and I've become one of those people. And it's very weird to me because, I initially totally had no idea how my books would end, and now I'm just like, oh, well, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I know exactly what the end is. So and
that's part of my needing a thing to aim for, right? It's like I know what the end goal is. If I keep pushing that way, then I can get there.
So. Somebody asked, and more chance to, of course, talk about our favorite works from other authors. What is your favorite recent science fiction fantasy release? And bonus points if it's queer.
Is I'm Waiting for You and Other Stories.
Nice.
By Kim Bo-young. I got to read an ARC, as you can see. So this is also, in a sense, mosaic. It's actually 4 novelettes or short stories. Not quite sure how long they are. And 2 of them connect, and the other 2 connect. But those 2 don't necessarily connect to each other.
Right.
And it is the first one made me cry. It is very much a chasing your love through time and small little missed opportunities type stories. And it's really emotional.
Just you even talking about that, I'm like, oh crap, that probably
I know, just the concept, you're like, goodness, right? No, it's really good. It is done very well.
Excellent. I admit I am kind of right now. I'm a little bit in what we used to call what they still call in video games, crunch mode. So
it
pretty much, unless somebody is throwing a book in front of me, which is what happened with yours. I haven't been. I've just been like writing, just been writing. So I'm kind of hunkered down right now, which of course is funny because my own 4th book comes out next month.
Yay!
And yay!
Congrats!
and I'm like, huh? Yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah, nice. I'm working on this.
You don't have time for that.
Don't have time for that. But because somebody I went over it again, but Midnight Kraken, which is 2 parts Kraken Dark from 1 part Hendrix Lunar Gin, which is like a limited edition, and then 1 part 1821's Blueberry Peppercorn Shrub, and I think I splashed a little bit of Saint Germain in there as well. So, and some Prohibition bitters. So.
Nice.
So there, that's the recipe I just made up.
And this is from Warren Felt's Pottery on Etsy.
It's so pretty.
I noticed some people were like, "Oh, mug."
It's beautiful. Yeah, I love it.
Link.
And
I can find the link.
do we have a link?
I can do it. I can find it. But keep talking. I can answer.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I'm
No,
waiting.
you're good.
So somebody asked for me, how many books are you anticipating the Chorus of Dragons series to be? It's 5 books. So 4th one is coming out May 11th, and I am finishing up the 5th book right now, and that's it. So we are wrapping this puppy up, which feels really weird because I feel like I just started the damn thing.
Yeah,
It's just so weird. Like, wait, what? But yeah, almost done. But don't worry, guys. It's a huge universe. There's probably plenty of room for me to do other stories. it's big universe. So different question I get asked a lot. How do you logistically keep track of and organize your world building?
very poorly.
That's fine.
I have some files that are labeled various pieces of things that I then one day should probably merge into one sort of Bible thing. But they're like Arkansas magic, but it'll be like most of the Arkansas magic that I've like redone. So then I have to like remember which 3 pieces are accurate. And then there's the other one that's like new magic system. And then they're
right.
And it's all in Word. I do all of my stuff. I do it on Word and in Word and on Post-its. And it's a terrible way to work. Please do not follow my example. I'm never going to mock anyone for Post-its. I have a giant collection of them. Post-its, what would we do without Post-its? I don't even know. Yeah, no, it's totally fine. I mean, I think that's one of the things I love most about talking to other writers is that, you know, you come away with this huge sense, this wonderful sense of there's no right way. We all do whatever works for you. Is the way.
Right. It's yeah. You know, I personally, like, maybe this is, you tell me if it's the same for you, but for me, like, it even changes from book to book.
Oh yeah, no, dramatically. That is the thing that has actually been enlightening and really frustrating, right? Is you're like, I've done this before. I know how to write a book. No, I don't. Each book is like you've never written a book before in your life.
Yeah, every book you have to figure out how to write that book. and sometimes you get lucky and the book tells you, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You're just like,
so true.
Okay. So how did 2020 treat you? I have to say on the if that's not too traumatic a question.
My daily life didn't change that much because I am a full-time writer. This is my office. I just work from home. So really it was the going out to eat and trying to get grocery stuff that was the hard part. But obviously I haven't actually seen any of my extended family members. My family, basically my husband's family's on the East Coast and my family's on the West Coast and we're in Arkansas. We don't have anybody nearby. So
Right.
we haven't really seen our family for over a year, and that's been the really tough part. So
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, I again deeply sympathize, because kind of same, and yet still very traumatic, just because.
Oh yeah, no,
of everything that was going
I
on.
developed some anxiety, and it was that part was not fun.
Yeah.
I was definitely stressed out, but it's weird because I almost feel like I don't deserve to be stressed out, because again, my daily life didn't change that much, but obviously the whole world, we were all going through it.
There's a little bit of I mean, I almost want to call it survivor's guilt, but it's like this feeling like that, you don't really deserve to feel stressed out,
like I
because
wasn't
it didn't
cooped up
impact
with kids, or
Right,
you know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do know what you mean.
Yeah.
And so you're like, well, but all these other people have it so much worse. And I just have to remind myself that it's not a race. Everybody gets to have their own anxieties and stresses and things like that. So that's just how it is. All right. So I think it's kind of time. But it was awfully fun. It was awfully fun chatting with you.
Yeah,
I
it was good
apologize
chatting
for
with
any
you too.
questions we didn't get to cover.
I think you guys pretty much got all of them. And yes, I think we can all say we are happy that 2020 is over.
Very happy.
But I want to thank you so much, Jenn, and so much, Marina, for joining us tonight and just talking books and all of the things and answering everyone's questions. A big thank you to all of the readers for showing up and for all of your questions as well. This was such a fun event, and I'm so excited for all of you to get to read this book because it is so good.
Thank
So
you.
don't forget, if you would like to purchase The Helm of Midnight, there's going to be the buy book button down below. I always have to say that slowly. I don't know why, but that is a tongue twister to say those words. And you can get your signed and personalized copy, and you can also get a signed copy of Jenn's new book as well. And
Drawing dragons in.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's right. I saw you on Twitter. Somebody had you.
Yeah, I'm
you have
drawing
a beautiful
dragons.
signature. You put all of us to shame.
I just am like, oh, I know what. I can tell it's the author because there's like a legibility or something. I'm like, oh, that's impressive. But thank you guys so much for sharing your works with us tonight and for letting us celebrate your new book with you. And we will say good night to everyone. Have a lovely rest of your evenings, and we will see you next time. Goodbye, guys.